How are you? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, the founder of the highest paid part-time job in the world options trading program. And we're not going to talk about options today. We're going to do one of our Sunday game sessions, what we call the laws of game. And what we're really quickly going to talk about and try to get you an understanding of is how your job recycles money and at the same time how they wash you up. And this is going to be for the person that does not want to get trapped on their job. So if you're the person where you enjoy where you're working, you enjoy it, you like it, it's a good thing for you, this audio is not going to be for you because it's going to be contradictory to your belief and to your experiences. And so what we're not here to do is bash people that work, but for people that are working, they don't want to get trapped on their job. They're kind of dissatisfied with some of the things that are going on. Or if you're kind of new to the workplace, because this is some of the things that was not explained to me when I first started working. You can kind of get a trajectory and a forecast of where this particular situation is going to go and what the end result of this situation is going to be for the majority of people. And as this economy contracts, as we start having higher and higher issues of inflation, you're going to start seeing this happen to more and more people over time. So let's go ahead and get into it. So what I'm going to tell you is a really quick story of how I came to this understanding. And it was really early as a worker where I started to kind of understand how the job sees you as an employee. And we talked about in one of my other audios that if you're not driving sales for the job, if you're not marketing for that particular job, what you really are is you're an expense. You've been made to feel like you're important because that's kind of how they keep you to get shown. They kind of program you to keep you showing up there. However, if you're not doing one or two things for that job that are actually driving in revenue, you're an expense to the job. And they may need you to keep things moving down the line, but they don't see you as valuable as somebody that's driving sales or marketing for them, which in turn is resulting in sales. And when I started working in healthcare, I was able to get a job at an outpatient clinic working for like a really, really large corporate medical business, right? And so I was working as a phlebotomist. And so I was coming in to work at this outpatient clinic to provide phlebotomy services. And when I came in on this job, there was a woman that was working with me in the same department. She was a little older than me because I think she had probably been working there around 20 years. And what I found out was that she had not always worked in that department, but she had been moved to that department because of what we call like an organizational change. So what happens a lot of times with jobs is that corporate decides that we have too many people in a particular position. We have too many people in a particular space in this organization. A lot of times it's based on the amount of money that is going to that group of people. And often they will decide, well, we're going to create changes in our organizational structure and we're going to try to move those people around or get rid of them. And so she was a byproduct, or she had been a casualty of that organizational restructuring. You see this in a lot of corporations all the time. And what she kind of explained to me what was going on was that they got rid of her position on that job, that she had worked there for years. They told her that she had to now work in another position, right? And they was giving her less money. And they told her if she didn't like it, she could quit. And she kind of explained to me the reason why they did that to her is because she had worked there for so long. She had built up a lot of PTO. She was at the peak of what she can make salary wise. And for everybody that worked that particular position inside that organization, they just wanted to get rid of those people. And this is what happens on jobs is that you will go into a job. You've been taught by your parents. You've been taught by your community. You've been taught by programmed by your socialization that you should go into a job and you should work as hard as possible. And I'm not saying that that's not what you should do. However, while you're working that job, the CEOs or the executives of that job decide that, you know what, based on where we want this particular organization to go, we have to get rid of this category of people on the job, and you may be included in that category. Therefore, the 10, 15, 20 years of work that you've done to perform for that job at a very, very high level, that all essentially just gets thrown out of the window, right? Because to them, the bottom line in the organization is going to always be more important than individuals. And I want you to really understand that when you're working for a corporation or you're working for an organization. No matter what people are telling you, I don't care if they're telling you that we all are family. I don't care if they're telling you that we believers. I don't care if they're telling you that this is a man or woman thing. I don't care if they're telling you that it's a black thing. I don't care what they're telling you. People that really understand organizational structure, they're building an organization because they believe the organization is always more important than the individual. Therefore, if there are individual casualties to building and creating longevity for this organization, 9 times out of 10, that individual casualty will be acceptable. And you got to understand that's the role you play in these organizations. Therefore, you have to understand when you're dealing with these organizations, I don't care what they're telling you the organization is about. If it's not your organization that you've built, you can become a casualty to that organization, because to that organization, you're an individual, and the organization is always more important than the individual. I don't care what they're communicating or they're marketing to you. That's just how this game works. And you really got to understand that. So she was upset about it. And so what she's told me she was planning on doing was that she started doing what we call an ALF, which is an assisted living facility. And she started working on building out her ALF because she wanted to get out of that position, because she realizes that eventually the way they're treating me, they're going to find a reason to fire me. Right. So what they're doing is they're playing nice now because they're giving me a lot of hints that they don't want me here. But eventually over time, they're going to just find a reason to get rid of me. And because, in the state of Florida, it's an at-will state, which means that if you don't have a specific contract with an employer, they can fire you at any time for any reason. If you can't prove that it's discriminatory, then there's nothing you can do about it. So it doesn't matter how long you work there. It doesn't matter whether or not you performed at a very high level for that job. They can pretty much find any reason to let you go because you're at will, which means that you're working there because you want to, and they're continuing that relationship with you as an employee because they want to. But you can get out of that particular situation at any time based on how you feel that particular day. Right? So that's what she was going through. Now, let me give you another example. So it's on a broader level. I knew somebody that was working for the largest retailer in the country. And they had worked their way up into a management position. So they weren't the manager over the whole, I would call location, but they had worked their way into a management position. It took them about 10 years to do this. And then what happened is that particular organization said, we're going to do an organizational change. And what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this middle layer of management. And the reason why they wanted to do that is because they had so many people sitting at that middle layer. Many times what happened in this organization is that people become complacent in their position. So what happens is they say, hey, let me come into this job. And I know if I can get just to this level, I can make enough money to where I'm good with that amount of money. I'm good with the amount of benefits that they're giving me. And then I really don't want to do that much more work to try to get to that elite level in the organization. So I may decide that I want to be a department manager, but I don't want to be a store manager. Or I may want to be a store manager, but I don't want to be a territorial manager, right? Or I may want to be a territorial manager, but I don't want to be one of the executives at the headquarters. Like, everybody has a level that they're willing to get to. That once they get to that level, they're going to be good. I used to say this all the time, is that a lot of people break their neck to become professional athletes. And then once they get there, they're good. They don't have a desire to be the best that ever played the game or to try to get to the Hall of Fame. They don't have, that's not their desire. Their desire was always to get to the professional level. And once they get there, they're cool. So every person has a standard of living that is acceptable to them. And 9 times out of 10, they're only going to live to that standard of living. Okay. So for many people that came into this particular organization, their standard of living was to become like a department manager. And they were fine with that. And once they were able to get there and get the benefits of that, the problem is that those ranks of people had gotten really, really big. So what they did was they came in and said, hey, we're going to do an organizational change. And what we're going to do is that we're going to essentially redefine the position. And we're going to get rid of all these department managers. And then what you're going to have to do is reapply to these new positions. And a certain amount of people are going to get the positions, and a certain amount of people are not going to get the positions. And then what you can do is, if you don't get the position, you could go back down and become an hourly paid employee. You could try to work your way back up into this new position, or you can just decide to quit. And the reason why they did that is because their middle management layer had gotten so big, they felt like it was bad for the organization. Now, if you have put 10 years into a job and you're being told that now your ability to stay on that job making the same amount of money you're making and getting those same benefits is really going to be based on how you can get this new position. And a lot of that's going to be based on who you know and who you have relationships with. But they made it seem like it was going to be kind of random, right? Or you had to re-interview for it. So you got to understand is that now your ability to stay in that job at that new position is back on the scale again. Well, why did they do this? We talked about earlier. This organization has decided that the longevity of the organization is always more important than any individual. So if individuals are casualties of where we're trying to move this organization to, then so be it. And you got to understand that this is how this game is built. This is how this game has been structured, right? From a corporate standpoint. But even when you're working for maybe a small business that got less than 500 people, they could be playing the game the same way because they may one day want to get to that large level, because this particular organization that I'm speaking about, they started off with just one place and they continue to expand and expand to what you have today. But they started off small and grew big. So therefore, you got to understand, just because you might be working for a small business, it doesn't mean that those particular owners of that business may not decide that that business is going to always be more important than individuals. What I want you to understand is this: as an employee of somebody else, you don't have a safe place regardless of how well you work. What we've been conditioned to believe is that if we should look for a safe job, that's a job that we believe is reliable, like government jobs, things of that nature. And I'm not saying that government jobs are not reliable. They helped a lot to bring, I wouldn't call it sustainability, to a lot of communities. So they're very beneficial in that regard, but everybody can't get a government job. So we're designed to go look for these particular scenarios that we're supposed to believe are safe. You know, I get paid every 2 weeks. That's safe, right? I make a certain amount of money every week or every month. That's supposed to be safe. And then if the job is in a very, what we call recession proof, or maybe lack of demand or economic shock proof industry, then I can feel content. So let's say you work in corrections where you feel like, hey, I'm always have a job in corrections the way they locking people up. So now I got something I can, kind of build off of now. I feel confident getting that home loan and getting that car loan, because we know corrections not going anywhere. They're going to lock up more people in 5 years from now than they're locking up today. Same thing with jobs like healthcare. Same thing with jobs like tech. You've been conditioned to look for these particular type of jobs. What is safe to me? However, you got to understand that there is no safe place in this economy. There are some safer places. I wouldn't say safer. There are some less dangerous places, but there is no safe place. And once you believe there is no safe place and you really start to understand that, then you will operate differently. But what we've been made to do is look for a safe place in the economy. So what a lot of people say is, hey, you know what? I'll spend 10 years or 15 years in college trying to get, a PhD, because if I can get a PhD and then I can get tenured, I don't ever have to worry about losing my job. And for some people, it's worth it. Then you never got to worry about losing your job because you're tenured, right? So, because you're working for a major state institution, they're not going anywhere. So then therefore your job is not going to go anywhere. And for some people, that's worth it. It's worth 15 years of their life to try to put themselves in what they believe to be a safe place. A lot of people have the same thing. Hey, if I go learn this particular job in this particular sector, I don't have to worry about that being phased out of the economy. So we've been conditioned to look to ways to make us more attractive to somebody that wants to hire us as a way to remain safe in this economy. I'm here to tell you, there is no safe place. There's places that are less dangerous than others, but there is no safe place. I used to watch this TV show called The Walking Dead, right? Watched it for a few years till it just got a little bit outrageous. And I remember they tried to build this area that, they felt like they had some level of continuity in. And that area got attacked by like an outside group. And some of these people just escaped with their life. And I remember the lead character was talking to his son, and he told his son, I want you to understand something. There is no safe place anymore. Don't ever believe that you're safe. Don't ever believe that, because I'm cool right now, I'm content right now, that this scenario is going to last for an extended amount of time. Because that's how we got caught up, where we was set down in one place and we got comfortable. And then when somebody attacked us because they wanted what we had, we weren't prepared for it because we had gotten complacent. So he was trying to communicate to his son, there are no safe places anymore. Just want you to really understand that, because he felt like I need to prepare my son for this new reality of how this world is built. OK, there's places in this economy that are going to be less dangerous than other places, but there are not going to be any safe places. But you're going to be persuaded that if you just go do this, you now have a safe place to where now you can relax and start becoming content. Let me give another example, because we've been taught that our model for employee excellence should be go to work, be excellent, and the job will reward you. And a lot of times our framing of that model has been like professional athletes. OK, so we look at a professional athlete, how much money they're making. We say, well, you know what? That's what happens when you're really, really good at your job. You're the best at your job. There's a guy right now that plays quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks named Russell Wilson, and he's trying to get out of that team. He wants to leave that organization and stop playing for that team. Why? Because he understands that I'm not in a place that is the best for me long term. Because what that particular team was going to do with Russell Wilson, and they've been doing this for a long time, they gutted that team a long time ago. They lost a lot of their best players. They never replaced them. Okay? Russell Wilson went out there by himself. He tried to do everything he could do to put the team in a position to win. You can't win a football game by yourself. It's almost impossible to do even on a high school level. It can be done. It's almost impossible to do on the college level. It can be done. It's next to impossible to do on the pro level. And I've never seen anybody really win games. You might get one game, but games by themselves on the NFL level, I don't care how good they are. It's a team effort. Okay? So he's realizing that I don't have the people around me for me to be successful the way I want to be successful. I'm already making the money. Now, he knows how the game is played in the NFL. The team will use him because he's good for their business. And then once he's no longer beneficial to them, they'll just cut him. Right? They just cut him. They just get rid of him. And the money he's making will also be cut off too. So what he's doing now is he's petitioning to try to get off that team because he's already made his money. Can I put myself in some place where I can be in a position to be successful? Because one thing about the NFL is no player is more important than the organization. And if you're a smart NFL player, you understand that it don't matter how much they like you now, right? You're never more important than that organization. And if they have to get rid of you to continue to push the organization forward, you're done. You're out of there. And they're going to move forward and not even going to look back. So he's looking to get out of there. You're talking about a guy that the team is paying excess of $20 million for. But he's seeing the writing on the wall that my time here is short and I need to get out of here on my own instead of waiting around for them to decide they're going to cut me. Because when they cut me, they're going to cut me. And at the same time, they're going to take my money from me. So I want you to understand is that even if you're an NFL player making millions of dollars a year, there is no safe place. They're just places that are less dangerous than others. So Russell Wilson, being a big time quarterback, was in a place that was less dangerous, right, than the guy that plays on the kick return team. But they're both in positions that are not safe. Because when that team decides that you no longer have a value to us that we're willing to compensate you for, it don't matter how much money they paid you in the past, you're out of there. And they take the money with you. The way the NFL works is the only money that's guaranteed is the money that you get up front on the contract. Your year-to-year money is not guaranteed. Even if it says guaranteed, it's not guaranteed. They got ways of getting you out of that money. You understand me? That's how the NFL works. It's part of their CBA. So we talked about the problem. Now, what is going to be the solution? The solution, first thing, is you need to create a way to generate income on your own. I don't think anybody in this world should be 100% dependent upon the income from their job. I just don't believe that is wise. I don't care what you do, right? Figure out a way to create income on your own. That's something that's legitimate. That's something that's real. And it's something that you can do without killing yourself. There's a lot of little side hustle stuff that you can do. And I'm for all of it. I'm not down in none of it as long as it's legitimate because I don't want you to go to jail. As long as it's something that, you can do. And as long as it's something that's safe, I don't want you to get hurt trying to do it. Okay. But you got to figure out a way. How can I be less dependent upon the income from my job? Because I'm here to tell you, if you're working for somebody and you're pulling another $2,000 a month off your little side thing, you kind of got a different attitude with them people because your attitude is like, yo, I got money coming in from somewhere else. So I'm not really sweating y'all like that. And a lot of times you'll find that once you really start working your side hustle, the money that they paying you, you realize I'm just doing a lot of work to make this money. And I'm doing not as much work to make my side hustle, but I got to try to figure out how to make my side hustle my main thing. That's how you got to start making your brain work. You got to get them gears turning. But I'm telling you, if you're getting even $1,500 to $1,000 a month doing your side thing, it'll change your life because that's an extra $20,000 a year. And that's why for what I'm doing, we put the baseline at $2,000 a month. Because I'm telling you, that changes people's lives. We're living in a world where the average person don't even make $50,000 a month. Average person makes less. I'm sorry. The average person don't even make $50,000 a year. The majority of this country makes less than $50,000 a year. So an extra $2,000 a month changes their life. We're not in a country where the average person, even I know everybody on the internet makes six figures. But for the people that's not on the internet, right, which is the majority, got to be the majority of the country because the majority of the country does not make six figures. If you're making like $225 a year, extra 20,000 may not be that big of a deal. They'll probably pay one of your bills. But when you're making $50,000 or less a year, extra 2,000 a year extra 20,000 a year changes your life. And it creates a floor right? To where if something happens in your life, one, you're confident that you can go make money. The biggest challenge that a lot of people have in this society is that if they work for somebody and they kind of know how much money they're going to make per month based on how many hours they work per month, if something comes up in their life, they have no idea how they're going to solve that problem, because all they can do is try to go to their job and ask for more hours. They don't know how to make money doing anything else. And that's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is that empowering people with skill sets the way they know, well, I can go do this to make money. And it's not something that is that's illegitimate. It's not something that's going to get them sent to jail. It's not something that's dangerous. And it's something that they can actually perform. Okay. So this is what a lot of people got to understand, is that the average person in America, if they all of a sudden their car breaks down and they need to go make $1,500 to repair it, they have no idea where that money is going to come from. So all they can do now is go to their job and try to get more hours, or try to figure out how to get a second job. And the way a lot of these jobs deal with you, you can't get a second job because they scheduling is crazy. You got some people working on a rotating shift. You got some people working on split shifts. So the way the job is set up, they can't get a second job because they don't have a fixed schedule. And a lot of these jobs, even though they're not paying you a good amount of money, they don't want you moonlighting. So they want you just to be just captive to them. That's not a good situation to be in. So the first solution is create a way to generate some income on your own that has nothing to do with your job. Second thing is stop being dependent on a building or a location to make money, right? One of the things you got to understand is that part of this industrialized system that we live in America is that you're dependent upon going inside somebody else's building to make money. And if you can't go inside that building to make money, you have a hard time figuring out how to make money. That's why so many people had to work during COVID, because the way their job was set up, they can only make money inside that building. You understand what I'm trying to tell you? If I have to go inside a building to do my job to make money, then I can only make money inside that building. I can't even work from home. Everybody can't work from home, quiet as kept. Some people, the only way they can make money is to go inside somebody else's building. Well, that makes them a slave to that building. We got whole towns that was built around everybody in the town going and working in this particular factory job or this industry job inside that particular town. So once that factory gets closed down, right, there's no way to make any money. The whole town goes down. You see a lot of that in North Carolina when the manufacturing left North Carolina. There's a little bit there, but not as much as it used to be. Once all that manufacturing left North Carolina, there's nothing else to replace it because everybody made their money inside those buildings. Same thing if you go to Cleveland. Same thing if you go to Detroit. Everybody was making their money inside these buildings, right? So when your income is building dependent, if you can't walk inside that building or walk inside somebody's building and make money, you don't have a way to make any money. That makes you very vulnerable. But you've been taught that these are safe jobs. So all they got to do is get rid of the building and you don't have a way to make money anymore. And we've seen this hit all areas of the country. One of the reasons why a lot of the black areas in LA went down. Why? Because they got rid of Firestone. A lot of black people made their money in Firestone, right? So once they get rid of Firestone, you know, there's no more building. A lot of those black communities in LA went down, which set them up for the crack era. See, they pull the economic out first, then they pull in the drugs. But that's a whole nother conversation. We ain't gonna go into that. So then the third thing is that you have to never relax and believe that you're in a safe space and understand that you're in a dynamic environment. So we talked about before some of these other examples. A lot of people move to Detroit to get jobs thinking that, hey, they got the auto industry here. And what happened? They got complacent. And as the auto industry started moving out of those particular areas, you got stuck holding the bag. A lot of black people moved to the West Coast because you had Firestone and you had Goodyear and you had other businesses out there. You had those port jobs. Well, when some of those particular places left and went other places, you got left holding the bag. You can't believe that this American economy is stable or fixed. It's not. We've seen in the market what has just happened over the past 2 weeks. This thing is not fixed. It's not stable, and it doesn't benefit people to keep this thing fixed and stable. I could do a whole masterclass on people in this market. We're talking about the stock market, talking about the bond market, right? People in the financial markets who benefit from driving the market down. That's something that's never talked about. And they're scared to present that information to you because they want you to just be bullish all the time. But I'm here to tell you that there are people who drive this market down for profit. and they don't care about the casualties. There was a guy before COVID, or right when COVID kind of hit, forgot his name, but you can go look him up. He was able to come on one of the media networks, and he said that America needed to do a total shutdown. America needed to do a total shutdown because COVID was going to be the worst thing since the bubonic plague, yada, yada, yada. All the hotels got to shut down, yada, yada, yada. Well, you know what? He was short the market. He has shorted the market. And he took a few $1 million, maybe a few $100 million, and he turned that into billions of dollars in a relatively short amount of time because he was short the market. His whole plan from the gate was to bring the market down. That was his whole plan from the gate. He had no other plan. So you're not in an economy that is fixed or is really stable. It's based on keeping things in chaos. It's based on keeping things in flux because you have a lot of competing factors is that they need things to go down for them to make money. Then they'll drive it back up. Then they'll drive it back down. They don't care because they figure out how to play both sides of the scenario. You're in a situation as an employee where you can only make money when the thing is going up. Just like if you're an investor, you only can make money when the stock is going up. Well, you don't know how to make any money when the stock is going down. Well, the market goes in three ways. It goes up, down, and sideways. So how come you only know how to make money in one area? So you remind me of these people, and I may do a discussion on this one day to where we get into it. We outside. We really get to it, right? I let you know, look here, man, I went out that other day, man. It's police everywhere. It's cops everywhere out there, right? It's real hot outside, bro. It's fire hot. It's an oven out there. And because you don't have anything else going on, you got to take the risk of going outside, even though I just told you it's 1 million cops outside, dude. It's like 1 million cops out there. Okay? We had a term for that coming up, but I'm not going to say it because I don't want to disrespect nobody on this conversation. But we had a term for that when I was coming up, what that was. It's 1 million cops outside. Okay? So I'm chilling right now. I ain't doing nothing. I'm laying low. But because you don't have any other way of making money, you got to go outside and try to deal with that because you only got a way of making money. So then what happens is you get caught up in that because you based everything you doing on this environment staying the same way forever. Well, I can always go outside and do this and get money. I can always go outside and do this to get money. So even when what's going on now in real life is a contradiction to that, you have to still convince yourself that it's still like that. Well, it can't be as bad as what David talking about, but then you go out there and it is as bad as what I'm talking about, but you got to do it anyway because you got to pay these bills. So many people, even when they hear that, you know what, there's changes in the economy and they're going to be moving money from this particular sector of the economy to a new sector of the economy, and maybe I need to make a change. They hear about that, but they don't do anything about it because their whole life is based on things staying the same way. That's a problem. Right? If I tell you that it's a bunch of police in this area, right? And you probably shouldn't go over there. Take my word for it. Or you can go over there and run through it and see if it's a bunch of cops. But don't think, well, it can't be as bad as what David says. Right? Because that's how a lot of people call the case right now today. They was forced to continue to do what they was doing because they didn't have any alternatives to doing that. Right? And I could do a whole discussion on that because it's very unfortunate that people have get caught up in that, even when they know what time it is. So let's go through the solutions again because I don't want to ramble. First, you got to create a way to create income on your own. So stop being so dependent upon the job creating all your income, right? You got to create an alternative to creating your income that's first legal, needs to be legitimate because you don't want to do something on the side that's going to get you locked up. Now you got twice the problem. 2, it needs to be something that you can actually do, that you can perform. And 3, it needs to be something that's somewhat safe that you're not going to get hurt doing. 2, you got to stop being dependent upon a building or a location to make you money, right? A lot of you are in a situation where if you don't go inside somebody's building, you can't make any money. That's a problem because what if you show up one day and they say, hey, you can't come in here? Well, why can't I come in here? Because we say so. Now what you going to go do? Because you can't make any money unless you go inside that building, right? 3, you got to stop believing that your environment that you're in is stable. Right? There are no stable environments in nature. I know the goal of us as humans is to try to create this environment that has stability. And I understand that it works. It helps create continuity. It helps create civilizations, things of that nature. But in this particular system that we live in, this environment is based on creating a lot of chaotic situations for the masses. The people at the top have stability. They have continuity. But what they've decided is that for the masses of people, the middle class people and the lower class people, what we're going to do is keep spinning the environment. We're going to always come up with something. There always got to be this going on. It always got to be that going on. How? Because we keep control by keeping things in flux. You got to understand the dialectic, right? And we could do a class on that one day. You got to understand the dialectic. So we keep control by keeping things in flux, because what we do is we're the person spinning everything up. And we're the person slowing it down. Then we spin it up and we slow it down because we got our hand on the wheel. You don't have your hand on the wheel. So you got to stop believing that if things are stable right now, it's because of your doing. It's not. It's because they've decided to let this thing go stable. I tell people all the time that learn options from me, this market is going to go the way that Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and BlackRock decide the market is going to go. That's the way this market is going. Now you got individual people that can come in and they can make their little play over a short amount of time. But long term, this market is going to go the way Goldman Sachs, BlackRock, and JP Morgan decide it's going to go. And I think JP Morgan is correct. There may be somebody else. I'm forgetting them because this is impromptu. But this market is going to go the way those three particular investment banks decided this place is going to go. Right. And especially if you look at BlackRock's relationship with the Biden administration, it goes the way they want it to go. So there really is no stability that you can depend on if you're not part of those particular communities and you know what's going on because they've given you the game plan. Right. If not, you should always expect volatility. And then you got to put things in place to kind of manage those particular scenarios. But you should always expect volatility because what? Volatility is profitable. They make money off it. Like I told you before, there are people that drive the market down because it's profitable to them. So then you should never anticipate the market continuing to go up indefinitely, even though long term it goes up. But short term, it gets driven down. Why? Because it's profitable. It's also profitable to walk it back up. So you got to kind of understand that you're in a dynamic environment because the actual nature that we live in is chaotic and the environment. It's not stable and it never has been and it never will be. So this is why your job will recycle money and wash you up. I hope that you got value from it. This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. If you got some value from it, share it out. If you know somebody else can get some value from it, hit them to the information. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.